Hi, and welcome to Annexation, an inside look, an ongoing series answering your questions about the city's proposed annexation. I'm Yael, Ksander, the Director of Communication for the City of Bloomington, and I'm joined here by my colleague.
I'm Michael Rouker. I'm the City Attorney for the City of Bloomington.
I'm so glad you're here, Mike, because annexation can be pretty complicated, and there are a lot of specific questions that folks want to know answers to. Today, we're going to be specifically talking about tax impacts. And we thought you were just the man to explain those.
You make me sound impressive.
So this is the big question on everyone's mind. Number one, why does annexation cause taxes to increase?
Yeah, that's a really important question. So everyone who owns property in the state of Indiana, they pay property taxes, except of course for those few folks who are lucky enough to be tax-exempt entities. They don't pay property taxes, of course. And we pay those property taxes to fund a variety of government services. So when you pay your property taxes, some of those go to the school system to fund the school system. Some go to the library to fund the library. Some go to the Monroe County Solid Waste District. Some of your funds go to, some of your property taxes go to fund the county government. If you live outside the town of Ellettsville or the city of Bloomington, some of your property taxes most likely go to fund the fire protection district. If you live in an incorporated area, so the town of Ellettsville or the city of Bloomington, you also pay some taxes to the city or the town respectively. After annexation, some folks who weren't previously paying taxes to the city of Bloomington will begin to pay some taxes to the city of Bloomington, and so that's how their taxes will go up after annexation. Now, interestingly, it's important to remember that the way you pay your property taxes won't change. That'll stay the same. It's just how those funds are distributed after you pay them that will change.
I see. So that property tax bill that you get at the beginning of the year breaks it down. And so on that line where it says city taxes, if you'd lived in the county outside city limits before, that wouldn't be there. Now it is, that layer.
That's exactly right, Yael. Yes.
So we're just talking about property taxes though, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Annexation doesn't impact income taxes or sales tax or any other tax you would pay, just property taxes.
Okay, that's good to know. You mentioned earlier when you were describing the impact that certain entities were tax exempt. Which ones would those be?
Yeah, so you think of things like churches or the university or a nonprofit organization. Certain entities qualify as tax-exempt entities, and of course those entities don't pay property taxes. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because for tax-exempt entities, annexation actually won't change their tax situation at all. Right now, they don't have to pay property taxes, and after annexation, they won't suddenly start paying property taxes. That situation will just stay the same. In fact, after annexation, tax-exempt entities will actually see something of a savings.
That seems counterintuitive. How does that work?
Yeah, so folks who live outside of the city actually pay slightly more for sewer, and they pay a water surcharge as well to the city utility department. So after annexation, those folks will see their sewer and water bills go down, so it will result in a savings to them.
Those rates are lower for city residents, in other words.
That's exactly right, and so tax-exempt organizations or entities will see a net savings from annexation.
Well,
so your church, your hospital, your healthcare facility, all those folks will save money from annexation.
Oh, that's great. They always need to realize savings, so that's good news.
Yeah.
So one group that we hear a lot from and about with regard to annexation is seniors, people who've lived in their home for decades and are concerned about the impact of increased property taxes once their property becomes part of the city. Do we have any relief insight?
Yeah, so seniors are some of the most valuable and potentially vulnerable members of our community. So we certainly don't want to see annexation have a negative impact on that community. Fortunately, in Indiana, we have a really effective vehicle for protecting these folks from property tax increases, and the fancy legal name for this is the over 65 circuit breaker credit. So in order to be eligible for the circuit breaker credit, the over 65 circuit breaker credit, you have to be over 65, of course. You have to live in a property that has a gross assessed value, so it's valued at $200,000 or less, and then you have to meet certain income eligibility requirements. Now, if you qualify for the credit, what that means is that year over year, so from one year to the next, your property taxes can never go up by more than 2% from one year to the next. So if you paid $100 for your property taxes last year, this year the most you could possibly pay would be $102.
Oh, well, that's a relief.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sure that will come as quite a relief to our seniors.
Yes. And so we did go through and tried to figure out what this would mean for most folks in terms of actual dollars. We have a really nice fiscal plan that has this information in it. I think Mayor Hamilton talked about this, the fiscal plan, a couple of annexation videos ago. And you can find it on our website as well, the bloomington.in.gov/annex website. And we figured out that for most folks who qualify for the over 65 circuit breaker credit, their taxes will go up by $7 per year. So 7, that's single digits, less than $10 per year. So about, right around 50 cents per month is what they would see their property tax bill go up. Now, we also have to remember that they will also receive those savings from the reduced utility rates we talked about a second ago. So we went through and computed the average savings, and the average savings is about $71 per year for seniors who are eligible for the credit. So, in fact, annexation will result in those folks being in a less vulnerable position than they were in before the annexation. So it's a net benefit for them as well.
That sounds great. I just wanted to remind everyone that we're here talking about annexation. I'm Yael, Ksander, the communications director for the city, here with Mike Rouker, city attorney, and we're answering a few questions about tax impacts of annexation. So we've talked about some real benefits, and I hope have allayed some fears. But surely for certain parts of the population, taxes will rise. And maybe we can talk about what happens to families living in traditional owner-occupied properties that become part of the city.
Yeah, and I think that's important. Most annexed residents will see a property tax increase after annexation. There's just no way around that fact. City residents have been paying that same rate for decades now, and that rate will now apply to those folks who are annexed. City services cost money, and we fund those services with property taxes, and so taxes go up after annexation for most folks.
Yeah, exactly. So most people have a mortgage. And so you don't pay your property taxes all at once or twice a year as one would if the mortgage were paid off. Most people are paying it 12 times a year. It's divided by 12. So that sort of attenuates the impact somewhat.
Yeah, I think that's right. The majority of folks, usually what we say is they escrow for their taxes, right? So they pay a little bit more for their mortgage every month, and it's divided into 12 payments. I think that's exactly right. Yeah.
Right. So so for the average homeowner, we've worked that out, and we can talk about that. But the average homeowner in Monroe County in these areas, the increase would be about $50 a month.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Again, you can find that information in the fiscal plan on our website, and the net tax impact for most folks would be about $50 per month. That's exactly right, Yael.
Wow. So how about different kinds of properties? We have a pretty good range here in Bloomington and Monroe County. Is everyone's property tax going to rise at the same rate, or will it vary?
Yeah, so for owner-occupied residential property, your traditional family home, the tax impact is going to vary, and it's mostly going to vary depending on the value of your home. So whatever your gross assessed value is according to the county assessor. Residents who are able to afford more valuable homes, they're going to pay a little bit more than residents who can't afford quite as expensive of a house. There are going to be some other factors that influence how much you pay around the edges, types of deductions, But most folks who are living in their home, living in a traditional residential home, they're going to be eligible for the homestead deductions. They're going to be eligible for the mortgage deductions. So most of the time, it looks about the same for those types of properties. We did go through and look at some example properties. So, for example, for a home that's worth right around $100,000, somebody like that, they're going to see the monthly impact, net impact of annexation at about $24 per month. On the other hand, someone who might be able to afford a more valuable property, something like a $440,000 property, about 4.5 times as much as the $100,000 property, that person's going to see a monthly impact of about $125 per month. So it really is going to vary depending on the value of the home. Property taxes, like a lot of taxes in America, they're progressive, and so those of us who are able to afford more expensive homes pay a bit more than those of us who can't.
I see. Okay, so there is that range. Do we have a feeling about an average? I mentioned a figure before. How did we arrive at that?
Yeah, so we did go through and look at all of the owner-occupied properties in the proposed annexation areas, and we did get an average. The average assessed value, gross assessed value of a property in the annexation areas that's owner-occupied is about $176,000. And so, as you mentioned earlier, Yael, the average net tax impact for that, a person living in a home like that's about $50 per month.
I see. Okay. Anytime it has to do with money, we all want to know when, right? So when can we expect these changes to take effect in the proposed annexation areas?
Yeah, so not until 2025. So the annexation would take effect legally in 2024, but in Indiana, we defer our property tax payments for 1 year. So you assess the property taxes 1 year, but you don't pay them till the next year. So that means 2025 is the first year that annexed residents could expect to see an increase in their property tax bills due to annexation. So hopefully that gives folks a decent amount of time to plan and prepare for any annexation that might take place.
Okay, we're discussing this in 2021, and this would take effect in 2025. So Mike, it occurs to me that throughout our conversation, we've discussed the impact on county residents. Is this proposed annexation going to have any effect on existing city residents, people in the city limits currently?
No. So folks in the city are already paying taxes to the city of Bloomington. They'll just continue to do that. Their taxes will not go up. So city residents won't experience any change from a tax perspective after annexation.
Well, it's great. It's been great talking with you. I think you've answered a lot of questions that have been on people's minds. Thanks a lot. Mike Rouker, City Attorney, and I'm Yael Ksander, the Communications Director for the City of Bloomington, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.